Hello, figments of my imagination. April's here, and with it, the absolutely massive March Ashes stream. The whole stream clocked in at a whopping 2 hours and 40 minutes, with the fighter demo taking up 98 minutes of that alone. So what exactly did we learn from that almost 3-hour investment? Honestly, not much. Steven went over all the abilities of the reworked fighter, along with giving a brief look at the greatsword weapon skill tree. As expected, and as I've said for the past few stream reviews, the main purpose of this stream seems to have been showing off just how playable the game currently is. Which is fine, but historically these streams have served as a great source of information, not just about features and mechanics of the game itself, but also deeper glimpses into the development process. The last few streams, on the other hand, have basically felt like commercials for Alpha 2, a very odd move considering they only really started pushing this format after they stopped selling the keys. But I'm getting a little sidetracked here. Let's talk about the fighter. Basically, the gameplay loop revolves around stacking momentum, a class resource that grows with combat and provides different benefits based on what form you are currently in. There were 3 forms shown, one that buffs attack speed, one that buffs move speed, and one that gives partial resistance to CC. The abilities themselves are pretty basic. You have attacks, both single and multi-target, that generate momentum. You have a massive AoE nuke and a bunch of mini AoE. In fact, the whole kit seems to shine in AoE scenarios. Add in 3 mobility abilities, a slow, a massive execute, and a big DPS cooldown, and that's basically the whole class. If you want a more in-depth look, I'll link the class demo in the full stream below, like always. Steven went over all the abilities at the beginning of the demo, the rest is just gameplay and can be skipped if you're not into that. As for the weapon tree, they showed that the basic plan at this point is to have different systems to reward weapon combos, the act of hitting an enemy with multiple basics in a row. For the greatsword, they showed different proc trees where you could choose a benefit to get on your final combo hit. They offered things like attack speed buffs, heals, status effects, reduced cooldowns, and guaranteed crits. After choosing a buff, you could then invest points to have it happen more often, last longer, or be more effective, things like that. Steven also showed they have plans for a passive stats part of the weapon tree, but they said currently they're pretty under 2. Finally, we had the Q&A, which only had a single piece of new information, but it's a doozy. Steven said the current plan for weapons has shifted to allowing every character to have both a ranged and melee weapon equipped, with abilities only using whatever weapon they are coded to. This came up when someone asked what would happen if you attempted to use Whirlwind with a bow. Steven said you wouldn't, and the ability would instead use whatever melee weapon you had equipped before swapping back to your bow. And that's it. Massive stream this time around, but like I said, it's basically just an ad for Alpha 2 at this point. Big other news in the MMO scene though. First, Riot announced that their MMO is basically starting again from zero, meaning it'll be radio silent for at least a few more years. Great news for Ashes, as that was probably the single most other hyped unreleased MMO. Second, the original creators of RuneScape announced a brand new MMO, Brighter Shores, releasing in Q3 of this year. It looks suspiciously like their previous game, which is certainly not a bad thing, and I personally can't wait. And yes, it is awkward that its release window is the same as Alpha 2. I'll link Andrew's Twitter below, along with the Brighter Shores Steam page for anyone who wants to follow along and wishlist it. Anyways, that's all. Do YouTube stuff if you want, or don't. That's fine, and I'll see you all eventually.